world's largest fur company. Over 183,000 beaver in a single year came to this building, making the guys who were in this room on this original spot right here very wealthy. A lot of things happened inside the Great Hall. One of the things, of course, Mr. Daniel Harmon wrote about in his journal were the fantastic parties and music they had in this Great Hall. Mentioning all these different instruments, the bagpipes, the fifes, the flute. We love music in Grand Portage. Yesterday, of course, we had the big 18th century music jam. We visited the historic encampments, the 50 or so tents over here, and the 100 tents across the river over there. We have about 150 tents here this year with over 300 reenactors. But there's two reenactors that have never been here before, and we're lucky to have them. You know, the Northwest Company stretched all over. We went down into Minnesota, how far down south as Pine City. We had reached the Arctic Ocean by 1789. The company had reached the Pacific coast by 1793. And a lot of times we celebrate the great routes of the fur trade here. And one thing we don't talk about enough, of course, is the fur trade, of course, on the northern plains. It's right up there in North Dakota, even down to Montana. The Northwest Company was there. So kind of stretching out, looking for reenactors in that area. We were lucky enough to find two great guys. These are reenactors over here, actually have connections to Fort Union Historic Site, if you've ever been there. I got good friends back here. They're called Eric and Arty, Music of the Upper Missouri. They actually come from the Montana, North Dakota border country. And I had a chance to listen to these guys yesterday, and you're in for a treat. Playing some historic music, you'll learn some great history. They love talking about the songs they play. I hope you enjoy the show. So once again, let's have a nice Grand Portage welcome to first-time visitors, Mr. Eric and Arty, Music of the Upper Missouri.
When Venus, the goddess of beauty and love, arose from the froth that swam out on the sea, Minerva sprang out of the cranium of Jove, a coy, sullen dame, as most mortals agree. But Bacchus, they tell us, that prince of good fellows, was Jupiter's son. Pray attend to my tale, and those who thus chatter mistake quite the matter. He sprang from a barrel of Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on it is like Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on it is like Nottingham ale. Bishops and curates, priests, deacons and vicars, whence once you have tasted, you all must agree that Nottingham ale is the best of all liquors, and none understands a good creature like thee. It dispels every vapor, saves pen, ink, and paper, for when you've a mind in your pulpit to rail, it'll open your throats, you may preach without notes when inspired with the bumper of Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. Ye poets who pray on the Helican brook, the nectar of gods and the juice of the vine, you say none can write well except they invoke the friendly assistance of one of the nine. His liquor surpassed the streams of Parnassus, that nectar ambrosia on which gods regale. Experience will show it not makes a good poet, like quantum sufficience of Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. And you doctors who more executions have done with powder and potion and bolus and pill than hangman with halter or soldier with gun, miser with famine or lawyer with quill, to despatch us the quicker you forbid us malt liquor till our bodies consume and our faces grow pale. Let him mind you who pleases, what cures all diseases is a plentiful glass of good Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is as Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, me boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. Ham Ale ends up being a piece of music that becomes very popular in the 1790s. It was a very pro-English piece of music that was written. Obviously, one that you might hear in a tavern, sung whilst drinking, well, none other than Nottingham Ale. That was the brew of choice. A very pro-English one of the time frame. This next one is very popular as well. We see where it's finally published. One of the problems as we research music is finding when it's written. Sometimes we find it printed, published with a collection of music. Well, that's not necessarily when it was written, but it's the first time that it's officially published. So this next one, Landlord Fill the Flowing Bowl, it's written about 1790. It shows up in one of the first collections and kind of the tail end of the 1790s. In fact, we would like you to sing part of this along with us. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. Now, it doesn't have to be true or not. We'll do that again together. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. Hey, we're half convinced by that. We'll do that one more time. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. So whenever you hear us start singing that, join along with us. Landlord, fill the flowing bowl until it doth run over. Come, landlord, fill the flowing bowl until it doth run over. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. The man who kissed the pretty girl and go and tell his mother. The man who kissed the pretty girl and go and tell his mother ought to have his lips cut off. Ought to have his lips cut off. Ought to have his lips cut off and never kiss another. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. The man who drinketh his small ale and goes to bed right sober. The man who drinketh his small ale and goes to bed right sober. Fades as the leaves do fade. Fades as the leaves do fade. Fades as the leaves do fade and drop off in October. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. But the man who drinketh his rail ale and goes to bed right mellow. But the man who drinketh his real ale and goes to bed right mellow lives as he ought to live. Lives as he ought to live. Lives as he ought to live and dies a jolly fellow. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. For tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll be sober. Great job, thank you.
By all means, if you stand up and want to dance, go right ahead. I hate to cut you off early there, folks. There. I've traveled all over this world, and now to another I go. I know that good corners are waiting to welcome old Rosin the Bow. To welcome old from below, saying, send down a hogshead of whiskey to drink with old rosin the bow. To drink with old rosin the bow. To drink with old rosin the bow. Saying, send down a hogshead of whiskey to drink with old rosin the bow. Stout fellas and stack them all up in a row. Let them drink out of half-gallon bottles to the memory of rosin the bow. To the memory of rosin the bow. To the memory of rosin the bow. Let them drink out of half-gallon bottles to the memory of rosin the bow. Stout fellows and let them all stagger and go, and dig a great hole in the middle, and in it put rosin the bow, and in it put rosin the bow, and in it put rosin the bow, and dig a great hole in the middle, and in it put rosin the bow. She a couple of bottles and put one at me head and me toe, with a diamond ring scratch upon them, the name of old rosin the bow. The name of old rosin the bow. The name of old rosin the bow, with a diamond ring scratch upon them, the name of old rosin the bow. One consolation, as out of this world I go, I know that the next generation will resemble old rosin the bow. Will resemble old rosin the bow. Will resemble old rosin the bow. I know that the next generation will resemble old rosin the bow. Fear that old tyrant approaching, that cruel, remorseless old foe, and lift up me glass in his honor. Take a drink with old rosin the bow. Take a drink with old rosin the bow. Take a drink with old rosin the bow. And I lift up me glass in his honor. Take a drink with old rosin the bow.
Obviously, it takes a lot of water navigation to get things to places like Grand Portage, and throughout a good chunk of the fur trade, the waterways are a very necessary thing. Sailing on the tail end of things, once they, like from Grand Portage, they get to Montreal, and then later they end up going across the ocean, going to places like England and so on and so forth. Same thing in the upper Missouri fur trade. That's going to go down the Missouri River, end up in St. Louis, Missouri, going to get sent out to different places, and then again across the ocean. So there's a lot of sea navigation that's a part of what's going on. And along with that, whether Voyageur up here at Grand Portage, the Engagé at Fort Union, or those that are piloting the vessels that are members of the ships, drinking's an enjoyable thing, and this is about that.
Oh, it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I must wander. Oh, where is me hat, me noggin, noggin hat, all gone for beer and tobacco. Well, the brim is all worn out, down the ground is kicked about, and me hair is looking out for better weather. And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South me tails is looking up for better weather, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering. Oh, where is me boots, me noggin, noggin boots, all gone for beer and tobacco. Well, the soles are all worn out, and the heels are kicked about, and the tails is looking up for better weather, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering. Oh, where is me pants, me noggin, noggin pants, all gone for beer and tobacco. Well, the cuffs are all worn out, and the fly is kicked about, and me bum is looking out for better weather, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering. I'm sick and stony broke, and I've been parted from me smoke. The sky is looking blacker than thunder, and the tavern keeper too, for I haven't got a sou. That's the way you treat it when you're out and under, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering. I'm sick to the head, and I haven't been to bed since first we came to shore with plunder. I've seen centipedes and snakes, and I'm filled with pains and aches, and I guess we better push out over yonder, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering, and it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog, all gone for beer and tobacco. Oh, I spent all of me tin down in South Street drinking gin, and across the Western Ocean I was wandering.
One of the more common instruments that you would have seen at probably Grand Portage and from where we are from at Fort Union would have been the violin or the fiddle. It wouldn't have been as common to see a guitar during these periods, especially, true fact, a guitar of this size and this nature actually wouldn't have been played by a male at all. It actually would have been played by a female. Usually it would have been played by the mother of the house, who would help educate her children in the ways of music in the home if they didn't have a piano per se, or to accompany them when they played their instruments, fiddle, violin, things like that. Since we are not fiddle, violin players,
Though we do play second fiddle from
we
time
play
to time.
second fiddle to real fiddle players. We do like to pay homage to that and some of the music that they played during the period. So these next few songs are fiddle tunes that we'll be playing on the guitar and banjo. We'll be playing first one is called Red-Haired Boy. The second one is going to be called The 8th of January, which a lot of you will probably recognize. And we'll speak more of that when we get to that too. Playing is a little bit of the 8th of January. This is a song that was written about the 8th of January for the Battle of 1812, and the victory that was set there. The melody many of you will probably recognize because years later, in the 1950s, there was a history teacher that really fell in love with the melody and decided to write some lyrics to this. And a band by the name of Johnny Horton's band decided to take that and run with it, and they turned it into a very popular hit amongst the States. And the last one that we'll be playing to tribute to the violin that we don't play, which is probably a good thing, is The Devil's Dream.
One of the challenges that we have when playing with historically reproduced instruments is the things that they're made out of, which isn't necessarily bad. My banjo, what you're seeing here is it's a bit late for Grand Portage. This actually is a reproduction of one from 1848. The original maker was a guy by the name of William Boucher, and it features, now you can impress people and win points on Jeopardy if you remember this, has what's called a beehive finial on top. And on the side here, this decorative part, it's not just decorative, it's functional as well. We've got what's called a double OG in woodworking. Okay? It's not just decorative and makes the instrument look nice, but it actually shows where those different fret marks would be like. So unlike the guitar, where we see that we have these definitive fret marks, like a fiddle player, though nowhere near as well as a fiddle player, I have to just know where those are at. Well, the farther up the neck you go, these help show you where those are. Now, this is made with a, I believe this one's a goat skin head. Cow skin head would be quite common as well too, as the membrane on top that this bridge rests on. So as the strings are strung, it vibrates on the bridge, which goes out into the head, which resonates the sound out. So if you have a not as dense wood, for example, this one is made out of maple, it does an okay job for a minstrel banjo. You'll notice that I'm sounding softer than what my brother is. Ones that were sometimes made with an oak bottom, which is a denser material, resonates more and produces more sound. Now, because we're in a historic place and I'm playing on this historic instrument, there was a nice lady who came in and she saw me over here and I was doing this, and she was a bit concerned because normally you don't take an instrument like this and do that. Well, the problem is,
although it might be a proper place to keep a banjo,
there are times. What ends up happening, this natural skin head just acts like a sponge, so any kind of humidity that's in the air, it just absorbs it, and the head will get kind of floppy, and the bridge will go further down in, get pushed in, and the sound of this will get softer and softer and softer until finally the strings won't stay in the bridge at all. So one of the ways to mitigate that issue is to keep it warm from time to time, but not too warm, because then you don't have a banjo anymore. So one of the issues that we've seen every single time, no matter where we go, if there's any kind of humidity, and it's not like we get any of that up here by Lake Superior, the banjo head will expand out as it has all the moisture coming into it, and that makes tuning a constant issue sometimes. Drier environment, not so much a problem. That skin head stays nice and taut. So that's some of the things about period reproduction instruments that you didn't know. You now know about the beehive finial, you know about the double OG, you know about the problems now with that natural calf skin head, and you know the name William Boucher. I hope some of you win money on Jeopardy at some point in your life with that information.
This next one we're going to do is a popular, they call it it's a sea shanty, but it's more appropriately called a capstan shanty. A capstan shanty is when you have some really meticulous work on the ship that you have to do, but it needs to be done in rhythm, whether it's rowing or pulling ropes, things like that. And what they would have is they would have one person who was the leader of the capstan, and he would shout out a line, and then the second line, so every other line, the people doing the job with them or doing the chore would sing in response as well. So every other line would be the capstan leader, and then the other lines, 1, 3, and then 2, 4, would be then followed up by the rest of the crew. This was seen in a lot of daily chores, and it didn't just happen on sea vessels as well. Usually when they came ashore and they had their chores as well, those habits, those traits and everything that they had on the ship would follow them, because it wasn't just a job, it was their lifestyle. It was what they did day to day to day. And so it followed them into their everyday life. So this one, next one we're going to do is an old one, and we really enjoy it, and we hope you do too.
Now we are ready to head for the horn. Way, hey, roll and go. Our boots and our clothes, they are all in the pond. To be rollicking randy dandy ho. Heave a pole and heave away. Way, hey, roll and go. The anchor's on board, the cable's all stored. To be rollicking randy dandy ho. Come rest the barbelies and heave away. Soon we'll be rolling her down by the bay. To me rollicking randy dandy ho. Heave a pole and heave away. Way, hey, roll and go. The anchor's on board and the cable rollicking randy-dandy-o.
Sing goodbye to Sally and sing goodbye to Sue.
Way, hey, roll and go,
For we are the bullies that can kick her through. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave a pole and heave away.
Way, hey, roll and go,
The anchor's on board and the cable's all stowed. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
Oh man, the cow snapped in and heave her at will.
Way, hey, roll and go,
Soon we'll be driving her down to the hill. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave a pole and heave away.
Way, hey, roll and go,
The anchor's on board and the cable's all stowed. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave away, you bullies, you parched-bellied rims.
Way, hey, roll and go,
Take your hands from your pockets and don't suck your thumbs. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave a pole and heave away.
Way, hey, roll and go,
The anchor's on board and the cable's all stowed. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
rouse her up, bullies, the wind's drawing free.
Way, hey, roll and go,
Let's get up the rags and drive her to sea. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave a pole and heave away.
Way, hey, roll and go,
The anchor's on board and the cable's all stored. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
We're outward bound for Valipode Bay.
Way, hey, roll and go,
Get cracking, me lads, 'tis a hell of a way. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
heave a pole and heave away.
Way, hey, roll and go,
The anchor's on board and the cable's all stored. To be
rollicking randy-dandy-o.
This is another very common sailing tune. We hear it sung in a happy way, and we hear it sung in a more mournful, meaningful way.
farewell and adieu to you, Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you, ladies of Spain, for we have received orders to sail for old England. Hope in a short time to see you again. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike sounding in the channel of old England. From Yukon to Scilly, 'tis 35 leagues. We hove our ship to with a wind from southwest, boys. We hove our ship to deep soundings to take. 'Twas 45 fathoms with a white sandy bottom. So we squared our main yards and up channel did make. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike sounding in the channel of old England. From Yukon to Scilly, 'tis 35 leagues. First land we sighted was called the Dogman. Next Ram Head off Plymouth, Stark, Portland and White.
We sailed by Beachy, by Fairlight and Dover, and then we bore up for the South Foreland Lights. We rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of Old England. From Ushant to Scilly is 35 leagues. And the signal was made for the Grand Fleet to anchor, and all in the Downs that night for to lie. Let go your champagner, let go your cat stopper, haul up your glue garnets, let tacks and sheets fly. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of Old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. Now let every man drink off his full bumper, and let every man drink off his full glass. We'll drink and be jolly and drown melancholy, and here's to the health of each true-hearted lass. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of Old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. Now let every man drink off his full bumper, and let every man drink off his full glass. We'll drink and be jolly and drown melancholy, and here's to the health of each true-hearted lass.
One of the questions we get asked many times when we perform is, hey, are you too poor to buy a regular sized guitar? The answer is yes, I am. No, I'm not. During the time period, slightly after Grand Portage, where we come from, the guitar really became known through a great gentleman by the name of CMF Martin. And his ingenuity, his ingenious design, really, he didn't look at just making an instrument. He looked at the country he was making the instrument for and how it would mold his instrument. And so he made it to fit the needs of the people, whether they're traveling, whether they have humid climate, where we're from, dry climate, things like that. He really looked into that. And then he even had it to where certain people were trained how to repair guitars. And actually the number one person, the number one profession, can anyone guess, that could repair guitars? Anyone have a wild guess?
Shoemaker.
Huh?
Shoemaker.
Shoemaker, nope. Cobbler, nope. Nope. Not a luthier, because not a whole lot of luthiers were coming out here during the expansion of the West. Anybody?
More and more Lutherans were, but not Luthiers. That's a joke.
Any other?
That's a joke.
Pardon me? A Cooper? No, not a Cooper. The answer actually is, do you know?
Yeah, but I'm not.
The Undertaker. The Undertaker, who would be in charge a lot of funerals and such, couldn't be hauling an organ around or piano around. That just gets a little bit lucky, you know. And so he could conduct services with a small guitar, and he could also, therefore, repair the guitar, because obviously he's got some skills with wood in the profession that he has chosen or that has been chosen for him. So, at the time of the guitar's invention, like I said earlier, it wasn't the male figures that would be playing them, it was actually the female figures, and so guitars actually had a smaller scale. Believe it or not, Believe it or not, The guitar actually was much smaller than this. They had sizes, 4 or 5 sizes that were smaller than this, which would be really entertaining to see a big guy like me play. Finally, in the mid-1800s, they decided on a style, they decided on a size that they would generally start calling, they'd give a number to, and this would be falling into the category of a parlor guitar, which would be played in the room of the house called the parlor. It got the nickname because they deemed it appropriate in size to fill up the room while entertaining guests. When guests came to your house for a dinner meal, after the meal, generally you would go into your parlor and you would entertain your guests. You would entertain your friends or people traveling through. You would have children play instruments or recite poems, and you yourself, as the man of the house, might pick up the fiddle and also entertain guests. And your wife would also pick up the guitar, accompany the children on their instruments or on their singing. So that's why the nickname parlor guitar came about. Now, parlor guitar, a lot of places will say a parlor guitar is a certain size, which is actually false. It actually kind of gives a wide range, not a wide range, but a range of about 3 or 4 sizes that would be appropriate for that size of room. So that is why the guitar I play is the size it is and is embellished the way it is. The way they were first around, this is a style 17 guitar they would call this, an 017. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of frills that you might see on modern day guitars. The bands are very, very simple in color. There's only 7 of them. Very simple. They're not made of ebony or anything like that. There's no bands around the sides. It's just a solid piece of wood, mahogany on the back, spruce on top. And then there's absolutely no pearlette inlays in here at all. They didn't have those at all. And then there's 2 sides of headstocks that you would have seen. A flat side would have been appropriate. You would have seen that. And the way they would have used that was with violin pegs. They would have popped those suckers through the back, and they would have tuned them like that. Another style, they would have 2 slots that would come through, and then they'd have metal machine type heads that would go through, and then they would use those as well. And those were the 2 popular styles that they would have for that. So that is a question that's often asked of us, and I just thought I'd shoot that out there. That's why me as a big guy plays a little itty bitty guitar like this.
Again, we hope you make money on Jeopardy. This next piece that we're going to be doing is one that is still used today, and it might be one that you've heard of before, and we're going to have a little bit of an Upper Missouri twist to it as we get further and further into it. It's called Heart of Oak. Come cheer up, me lads, 'tis to glory we steer, to add something more to this wonderful year. To honor we call you as free men, not slaves, for who are so free as the sons of the waves? Hearts of oak are our ships, hearts of oak are our men, we always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. We never see our foes, but we wish them to stay. They never see us, but they wish us away. If they run, why we follow and run them ashore. For if they won't fight us, we cannot do more. Heart of oak are our ships, heart of oak are our men, we always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. They swear they'll invade us, these terrible foes. They frighten our women, our children and foes. But should their flat bottoms in darkness get o'er, still Britons they'll find to receive them on shore. Heart of oak are our ships, heart of oak are our men, we always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. We'll still make them fear and we'll still make them flee, and drop them on shore as we've dropped them at sea. Then cheer up, me lads, with one heart let us sing. Our soldiers, our sailors, our statesmen and queen. Heart of oak are our ships, heart of oak are our men, we always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. 1759 is when that set of lyrics gets written. Another variation on it called Liberty Song gets written in 1768. What does it get used for today? It's the service song of the Royal Navy.
Amsterdam, lived a maid, mark well what I do say. In Amsterdam there lived a maid, and she was mistress of her trade. I'll go no more roving with you, false maid. A roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more roving with you, false maid. She swore to me that she'd be true, mark well what I do say. She swore to me that she'd be true, she swore the whole darn Navy too. I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. I put my hand upon her toe, mark well what I do say. I put my hand upon her toe, says she, young lad, you're rather low. I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. I put my hand upon her knee, mark well what I do say. I put my hand upon her knee, says she, young man, you're making free. I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. Put my hand upon her thigh, mark well what I do say. I put my hand upon her thigh, says she, young man, you're drawing nigh. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. I slipped me mainmast in her blocks, mark well what I do say. I slipped me mainmast to her blocks, says she, young man.
Now, this is another one of those songs of which there were multiple versions that were written. In fact, it's quite popular in England today. It's often included in a number of children's songbooks, still sung as a bit of a nursery rhyme, featuring a bit more tranquil, peaceful, fair maid, unlike the false maid we've been singing about. But still, a-roving, since roving's been my ruin, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, false maid. This is a song that you've heard before, more than likely. Close to it. And you might think this comes from later in the time period, but actually this one gets written about 1805. And the longer that it's around, it becomes more and more popular. And since we're at a place like Grand Portage and we come from Fort Union, the fur trade is why all of this is here. And in all the different pieces that we do and the songs that we've sung, we get to play homage to like the life that's part of the water travel, the shipping back and forth, the men and women that were part of things, but we really don't have anything as an homage to the animals that made it possible. So we've done a lot of searching. Like I've said, this is a song you've heard before. It's the only one that we've got that pays homage to the one of the fur-bearing animals that was collected here at Grand Portage and then on the Upper Missouri Fur Trade at Fort Union. It's mentioned only once in the first line.
Because unfortunately, singing about girls is more famous, so they decided to hit the animal and then we'll get back to the girls.
So it's one you'll probably recognize. You ought to see my Cindy, she lives away down south. Now she's so sweet, the honeybees, they swarm around her mouth. The first I seen my Cindy, a-standing in the door, her shoes and stockings in her hand, her feet spread round the floor. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday.
Shake some sugar down, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. My Cindy got religion, she had it once before, but when she heard my old banjo, she left up on the floor. She took me to her parlor, she cooled me with her fan, she said I was the prettiest thing, the shape of both those men. She did?
Yes.
Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. My Cindy is a sweet girl, my Cindy is a peach. She threw her arms around me tight and hung on like a leech. She kissed me and she hugged me, she called me sugar plum. She hugged so tight I could hardly breathe. I thought my time had come. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. If I had bread and milk, if I knew how to sew, I'd sew that gal to my coattail and down the road I'd go. I want my Cindy, Cindy, her lips and arms of meat. I never seen another gal that Cindy couldn't beat. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, I'll marry you someday. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home, Cindy, I'll marry you someday.
Usually at some point, it's necessary for us to pause briefly, and a lot of times this is where